It was supposed to be a night of celebration. Our 10th anniversary. A decade of marriage, loyalty, and what I thought was unwavering love. I spent the afternoon getting ready, slipping into a sleek black gown that hugged my figure perfectly. My hair was pinned up in soft curls, a delicate diamond necklace gracing my collarbone. I smiled at my reflection, feeling beautiful, confident even, something I hadn't felt in a long time. James had been distant lately, but I chalked it up to work stress. He had been spending long hours at the office, coming home late, sometimes not at all. I told myself it was normal. All marriages go through rough patches. That's what I believed, until that night. The restaurant was breathtaking, dimly lit with candlelight flickering across the crisp white tablecloths. James had reserved a private room, a gesture that felt intimate and romantic. I had begun to relax, thinking maybe this was his way of reconnecting with me. A chilled bottle of champagne sat between us, glasses already poured. James's expression was guarded, but I ignored the knot in my stomach. I wanted to believe we were okay. Then she walked in. Blonde. Dangerously beautiful. She wore a sleek red dress that clung to her curves, heels clicking against the marble floor with every step. My heart stopped when I saw the glint of diamonds on her wrist, the diamond bracelet James had promised to buy me months ago. I had seen the receipt. When I asked him about it, he brushed it off, saying it was for a colleague's wife. My blood turned cold. She smiled, smirked actually, and walked straight toward our table like she owned the place. Like she owned him. "Surprise, darling," she purred, her gaze sliding from me to James. "I hope you don't mind if I join you." James stiffened, his face draining of color. My eyes flicked to the bracelet on her wrist, the one that was supposed to be mine. My throat tightened, but I didn't let my face betray me. I stayed calm, sitting perfectly still as she slid into the seat beside James, her manicured nails tracing the rim of his glass. "What's this about?" I asked evenly, though my hands were trembling beneath the table. James opened his mouth, but the woman cut him off. "Oh, come now," she said, laughing lightly. "Don't make him lie to you. We both know the truth, don't we, James?" I could see the panic in his eyes, the way his jaw tightened and his hand curled into a fist. He looked at me, silently begging for understanding. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "It's not what it looks like." "Stop." My voice was sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. My gaze flicked to the bracelet once more. "It's exactly what it looks like." The woman smiled, lazily stretching out her arm to admire the diamonds. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she cooed. "James has such good taste. You should have seen how he put it on me. Such delicate hands." My stomach churned, but I refused to let her see me break. He wanted that. They both wanted that, to see me humiliated and weakened. But I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, I calmly reached into my clutch and pulled out a small silver USB drive. I placed it on the table with a soft click. "I think you'll both find this interesting," I said. James's eyes widened. What is that?" I smiled coldly. "Evidence." His mistress's smile faltered. "Evidence of what?" "The prenup," I said smoothly. "It has an infidelity clause. And I've hired an investigator." I leaned forward, letting my gaze harden. "This contains photos, videos, and receipts. Every single time you met her. Every single hotel room you paid for. Every expensive gift you bought her with my money." James's face went pale. The woman's eyes darted to him, her expression twisting into something ugly. "You said you'd leave her," she hissed. James was frozen, his mouth opening and closing as if searching for an excuse. "That's the thing," I said, letting my smile sharpen. "He can't leave me. Because if he does, I take everything." I sat back, calmly swirling the champagne in my glass. "Including the company." James's mouth dropped open. He looked genuinely terrified. "Good. He should be." "Darling," his mistress whispered, clutching his arm. "You said it was handled." "It's definitely handled," I replied. "The divorce papers are being drawn up as we speak. You'll be hearing from my lawyer in the morning." James's hand slammed down on the table. "You can't do this." I smiled. "Oh, but I can. You see, James, you were sloppy. Very sloppy. You didn't think I'd find out? The late nights? The unexplained charges? You underestimated me. You're making a mistake." "The only mistake I made," I said coldly, "was trusting you." The mistress sat back, scowling. You won't get away with this. Actually, I already have. I stood, smoothing down my dress. My heart was pounding, but I didn't let it show. Oh, and one more thing. I leaned down, my lips close to James's ear. Take a good look at her, James. Because the moment I walk out that door, everything you've built, everything you care about, will start to crumble. James stared at me in horror. I turned toward his mistress, who was still clutching her wrist like the bracelet might disappear if she let go. Keep the bracelet, I said. It'll be the only thing left when this is over. Then I walked out, head high, shoulders back. My heart was racing, but I didn't look back. I wouldn't give them that power. I stepped into the cool night air, the sound of the city washing over me. My phone buzzed. It was my lawyer. The papers are ready, he said. Shall I file them tomorrow morning? Yes, I replied, my lips curving into a smile. Do it. I took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill my lungs. It wasn't the ending I had imagined for my marriage, but maybe it was the beginning of something better. As I walked away from the restaurant, I didn't feel broken. I felt powerful. And this time the only person I would trust was myself. The morning after the anniversary dinner, I woke up feeling light. Weightless even. For the first time in years, the crushing pressure of trying to hold my marriage together was gone. I sat up in bed, sunlight filtering through the sheer curtains. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, but I ignored it. Let them call. Let the pieces start to fall. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. I slipped out of bed, wrapping a silk robe around myself before opening it. My housekeeper, Maria, stood there with a tray of coffee and a crisp white envelope sitting neatly beside the cup. It's from your lawyer, she said softly, setting the tray down on the marble table. I picked up the envelope, my thumb sliding beneath the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Bold, professional font. Clean language. It was done. Would you like me to take care of anything else? Maria asked gently. I shook my head. No. But thank you. She smiled and left quietly, closing the door behind her. I sipped the coffee, feeling the warmth spread through me. James was probably waking up in his hotel room right now, hungover and panicking. Good. Let him sweat. My phone buzzed again. This time I picked it up. It was James. 10 missed calls. A single text popped up beneath the calls. We need to talk. Please. I stared at the message for a long moment before tossing the phone onto the bed. He didn't deserve a response, not yet. Let him sit in the mess he made. I took a long hot shower, letting the steam clear my head. When I emerged, the weightlessness hadn't gone away. If anything, it had settled into something sharper. Focused. I dressed in a crisp white blouse and tailored black pants, slipping on a pair of heels that clicked against the hardwood floor. Power suited me. An hour later, I was sitting across from my lawyer, Stephen Whitmore, in his sleek downtown office. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, but Stephen's attention was focused solely on me. The papers have been filed, he said, adjusting his glasses. James will be served today. I nodded. Good. And about the assets, Stephen added. With the infidelity clause in the prenup, you are entitled to 50% of the company's holdings, the house, the vacation properties, and all joint accounts. I want the company, I said evenly. Stephen raised an eyebrow. James will fight that. He can try, I replied. But the evidence is solid. Public exposure of the affair alone could tank his stock value. If he wants to save face, he'll sign. Stephen smiled. You're playing hardball. I sat back, crossing my legs. I'm not playing. I'm winning. Just then Stephen's assistant knocked on the door and peeked in. Mrs. Blackwell, your husband is here. I didn't flinch. Send him in. A moment later, James stepped into the office. He was still in the same suit from last night, tie loose, hair disheveled. He looked pale, his eyes dark with exhaustion. For a fleeting second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Claire, he said, his voice rough. I stayed seated. James. Could we have a moment alone? He asked, glancing toward Stephen. No, I replied coolly. James's jaw tightened. Claire, please. Just give me 5 minutes. Stephen glanced at me. I gave him a small nod and he left the room, closing the door behind him. James rubbed a hand over his face. I don't know where to start. Try the part where you've been sleeping with your mistress for 6 months, I said. His eyes darted to mine. It wasn't like that. Oh, My lips curled. Then what was it like, James? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I was confused. Things haven't been the same between us. I thought you didn't want me anymore. My eyes narrowed. So you decided to sleep with someone else? It wasn't serious. Serious enough to buy her a diamond bracelet, I cut in. Serious enough to take her to our anniversary dinner. James closed his eyes. Claire, I screwed up. But it doesn't have to be the end. We can fix this. I laughed softly. Fix it? Yes, he said, stepping closer. His hand brushed my arm. I'll leave her. We can go to counseling. We can start over. I stood up, brushing his hand away. You think I'd ever take you back? I made a mistake. No, I said, eyes flashing. A mistake is forgetting our anniversary. A mistake is missing a flight. This was a choice. Repeated. Calculated. He stared at me helplessly. Claire, please. I smiled coldly. You're not listening, James. It's over. He stepped toward me again, desperation flickering across his face. But I love you. I scoffed. You don't love me. You love the comfort I provided. The status. The stability. And now that it's slipping away, you're clinging to me like a drowning man. James's face paled. So that's it. Yes, I said softly. That's it. I walked toward the door, but he grabbed my wrist. Claire, you can't just walk away from everything we built. I turned to face him. You didn't build this, James. I did. I was the one behind the scenes holding it together while you were off chasing your ego. He let go of my wrist. His hand fell limply to his side. What happens now? You sign the papers, I said. And you get out of my house. His mouth twisted bitterly. And if I don't? I leaned toward him, my lips inches from his ear. Then the evidence becomes public. And you know how the board will react to that. His breath hitched. Make your choice, I said. Either way you lose. James swallowed hard. He was shaking, his hands curled into fists. But I could see it in his eyes, he knew he had already lost. I'll sign, he whispered. Smart, I replied. I walked to the door and opened it. James stood there, frozen, as Stephen stepped back inside. I'll have the papers to you by tomorrow morning, Stephen said briskly. James gave a single, defeated nod. He left without another word. As soon as the door closed, Stephen turned toward me. That was impressive. I smiled. It's not over yet. Stephen chuckled. What's next? Damage control, I said. James might try to pull some strings with the board. We need to get ahead of that. Stephen nodded. I'll set up a meeting. I stood, brushing my hands down my sides. Do that. And Stephen? Yes. I smiled. Make sure he leaves with nothing. Stephen's smile sharpened. Understood. As I walked out of the office, the city stretched out before me, bright and endless. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't lost. I was free. James had underestimated me. That was his first mistake. His second mistake was thinking I'd let him walk away unscathed. The fallout was just beginning. And I was the one holding the match. 3 days after James agreed to sign the divorce papers, I received an invitation to a charity gala. It arrived in a sleek white envelope hand-delivered to my penthouse. James's name was still listed on the RSVP, but that was no surprise. For the past decade we had been the it couple at these events. Wealthy, polished, admired. The only difference now was that James would no longer be by my side. Which was exactly the statement I wanted to make. I stood in front of my closet, sliding my hand over the silk and velvet gowns hanging in a perfect row. My gaze settled on a crimson dress, a bold, dangerous shade of red that seemed almost too obvious. Almost. A fitting color for the beginning of James's downfall. I slipped into the dress, the smooth fabric clinging to my curves as I adjusted the deep neckline. I pulled my hair into an elegant chignon and fastened a pair of diamond earrings to my lobes. No necklace. I wanted the line of my collarbone to remain bare, like an open target. Downstairs, a sleek black car waited for me. The driver opened the door without a word and I slid into the cool leather seat. The gala was held at the St. Regis Hotel, a familiar venue lined with marble floors and gilded chandeliers. The air buzzed with chatter and the clink of champagne flutes. My arrival caused an immediate ripple of attention. Heads turned. Whispers followed me as I stepped into the room. My eyes skimmed the crowd until they settled on James standing near the bar. He looked tired. A glass of bourbon dangled loosely in his hand, and his tie was slightly askew. His mistress was at his side, wearing a silver satin dress that shimmered beneath the soft lighting. And of course the diamond bracelet still clung to her wrist like a trophy. She spotted me first. Her lips curled into a smug smile. James turned. His eyes darkened when he saw me. I smiled. Fully. I wasn't there to hide. I was there to conquer. I walked toward them with measured grace, every step deliberate. James's gaze followed the curve of my body, lingering on the dress's plunging neckline. Claire, he said, his voice low. James, I replied, cool and controlled. The mistress, Jessica, I remembered now, slipped her arm through James's. Well, if it isn't the soon-to-be ex-Mrs. Blackwell, she purred. My smile sharpened. Jessica. Jessica's eyes gleamed. I have to say you're handling this rather well. I'd be a mess if my husband left me for someone younger. James stiffened, but I didn't blink. Oh, you misunderstand, I said. James didn't leave me. He just happened to betray me. And he's about to pay for that. Jessica's smirk faltered. What's that supposed to mean? I stepped closer, my eyes locking with hers. You really thought you won, didn't you? Jessica's hand tightened around James's arm. I don't need to win. I already have him. I leaned in, my lips near her ear. For now. Jessica's smile vanished. James cleared his throat. Claire, this isn't the time. I turned toward him. Are you embarrassed, James? Because you shouldn't be. After all, I'm the one who's walking away with half your company. Jessica's face darkened. What? I turned toward her. Oh, didn't he tell you? The prenup has an infidelity clause. I get 50% of everything. Jessica's eyes flashed. You said you were handling it, she hissed at James. I was, he said through clenched teeth. Apparently not well enough, I said. Jessica's hand shot out, grabbing James's tie. You promised me this wouldn't happen. James shoved her hand away. Not now, Jessica. Jessica's eyes narrowed dangerously. Are you seriously going to let her take half? James's mouth thinned. It's not that simple. Jessica's eyes narrowed. No, James. It's very simple. Jessica turned toward me, venom in her gaze. You think you're so clever, she hissed. But you can't just take everything. James will fight it. I smiled. Let him try. James rubbed a hand over his face. Jessica. Jessica turned and stalked toward the exit. But just before she left the room, she turned and lifted her wrist, showing off the bracelet. I'm keeping this, she called out. I smiled. Keep it. You'll need something to remember him by. Jessica's smile vanished. She turned on her heel and disappeared through the door. James exhaled sharply. His shoulders slumped. You didn't have to do that. I arched a brow. Didn't I? His eyes met mine. Why are you doing this? My smile sharpened. Because you underestimated me. James sighed. Claire. I'm not coming back, James, I said softly. There's no fixing this. James's eyes darkened. I know. He reached for my hand. I let him touch it for a brief second before pulling away. James's mouth tightened. Is this really how it ends? It ended the moment you walked into her hotel room, I replied. James's shoulders sagged. He looked defeated. Good. I walked past him, pausing only briefly. Oh, and James. He looked up. You might want to tell Jessica that the credit card she's been using has been cancelled. His brow furrowed. What? I smiled. You didn't think I was going to bankroll your affair forever, did you? James's mouth dropped open. I turned and walked away, the sound of my heels echoing against the marble floor. When I reached the front entrance, the doorman tipped his hat. Would you like me to call a car for you, Mrs. Blackwell? I smiled. It's Miss Blackwell now. He smiled. Right away, Miss Blackwell. As I stepped into the waiting car, my phone buzzed with a new text from Stephen. Jessica tried to withdraw $10,000 from James's account. It's been frozen. I laughed softly. James had chosen the wrong woman. But I had just chosen myself. A week after the gala, James's life started to unravel, publicly. The fallout began with a strategic leak to the press. A discreet whisper to the right journalist. paired with the right photograph from my investigator's file. A shot of James entering the Four Seasons with Jessica, her hand clutching his lapel. Prominent CEO James Blackwell linked to alleged infidelity scandal. By noon, the headline had gone viral. By evening, the board members at Blackwell Industries were already making frantic phone calls. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse, overlooking the city as the lights began to flicker on. A glass of Merlot rested in my hand. My phone buzzed on the marble counter beside me. It was Stephen. "Claire," he said, his voice sharp with satisfaction. "James just called an emergency board meeting." I smiled faintly. And the board is panicking. Stocks down 8% since the article dropped. "Good," I said, swirling the wine in my glass. "He'll try to fight you," Stephen said. "You know that." I took a slow sip of the wine. "Let him try." Stephen chuckled. "Well, you'll be happy to know that the assets are already shifting." "Explain," I said. James was forced to pull from the company's liquid reserves to cover his personal legal fees. The board sees it as mismanagement. They've already started drafting a proposal to push him out. I smiled, setting the glass down. "And the ownership transfer? Once the divorce papers are finalized, you'll hold a controlling stake in Blackwell Industries." James had handed me his empire the moment he slid that bracelet onto Jessica's wrist. He just didn't know it yet. Stephen hesitated. "Claire, there's one more thing." I arched a brow. "Yes." "James reached out to his father," Stephen said. I scoffed. Of course he did. James's father, Henry Blackwell, had built the company from the ground up before retiring. He still held sway with the board, even though he had stepped back from the day-to-day operations. "Henry won't want the scandal to go public," Stephen said. "That's the point," I replied. Stephen laughed. "Claire, you are absolutely ruthless." I smiled coldly. "That's why you work for me." As I hung up the phone, the intercom buzzed. "Yes," I said. "Miss Blackwell." The doorman's voice came through the speaker. "You have a visitor." "Who?" "A Mr. Carter Sinclair." My brow lifted. "Interesting." "Send him up." Minutes later, the elevator opened with a soft chime. Carter Sinclair stepped out, a tall figure in a tailored navy suit. His dark hair was slightly tousled, his blue eyes sharp and assessing. Carter Sinclair was James's biggest competitor, the CEO of Sinclair Holdings. He'd spent years trying to acquire Blackwell Industries, but James had always resisted. "Miss Blackwell," he said, his voice low and smooth. "You look dangerous." I smiled faintly. "Careful, Carter. Flattery isn't free." He chuckled. "Wouldn't dream of it." I gestured toward the seating area. "Care for a drink?" He followed me to the sleek leather sofa and sat across from me, his eyes never leaving mine. "Whiskey," I offered. "Scotch if you have it," he replied. I poured 2 glasses and handed him one. "So," I said, settling back against the cushions, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" Carter's smile sharpened. "I heard about James's unfortunate situation." I sipped my drink. And I hear you're about to become the majority shareholder of Blackwell Industries." I didn't respond. "Let me be clear, Claire," he said, leaning forward. "James is going to fight to keep his seat on the board. But if you align with me, if you let Sinclair Holdings absorb Blackwell Industries, we can cut him out completely." I tilted my head. "Interesting offer." "James won't survive this scandal," Carter said. "The board will vote him out. But if you want to make sure he stays out permanently, I'm your answer." I studied him. Carter Sinclair was cunning. Ruthless. He didn't make offers unless he was certain he'd get something in return. "What's in it for you?" I asked. Carter's smile deepened. "Control of Blackwell Industries." I smiled faintly. "And what's in it for me?" "Revenge," Carter said simply. "Total annihilation of James's legacy." It was tempting. Very tempting. But I wasn't going to hand Carter that much power. I stood, walking toward the window. The city stretched out below, glittering and endless. "I have a better idea," I said. Carter's brow lifted. "I'll take control of Blackwell Industries myself," I said. "No merger. No acquisition." Carter's smile didn't fade. "Ambitious." "I'm not done," I said. Carter's eyes gleamed with interest. Go on. I'll keep you close, I said. Strategic partnership. A joint project. I turned toward him, my gaze steady. You get a seat on the board. But I hold the reins. Carter's smile widened. You're not playing safe, are you? I stopped playing safe when James betrayed me. Carter stood and walked toward me. His gaze was piercing. You're dangerous, Claire. I smiled. You have no idea. Carter leaned down, his lips brushing my ear. I like dangerous women. My eyes darkened. Careful, Carter. You might regret that. Somehow, he said, I doubt it. I walked him to the door. He paused before stepping into the elevator. I'll have my team draft the proposal, he said. Send it to Stephen, I replied. And Carter. He turned. If you betray me, I said softly, you'll regret it. Carter's gaze sharpened. Noted. The elevator doors slid shut. I stood in the empty hallway for a moment, my heart pounding. The game had just shifted. By the end of the month, James would be out. I would take control of Blackwell Industries. Jessica would be a footnote in history. And Carter Sinclair? He would be an asset. For now. The next morning, the headlines were brutal. Blackwell Industries CEO under fire as scandal deepens. James Blackwell faces corporate ouster amidst allegations. James tried to call me. Multiple times. I didn't answer. 2 days later, the board voted. James was out. My divorce papers were finalized the next day. Jessica tried to contact James, but the credit cards were canceled and the bank accounts were frozen. She was spotted leaving their shared apartment with 2 suitcases and a scowl. James showed up at my penthouse that evening, standing outside in the rain like some tragic movie character. Claire, he said, soaked and desperate. Please. I opened the door, standing between him and the warmth of my home. What do you want? I asked coldly. You don't have to do this, he said. We could start over. I smiled faintly. We already ended. James's eyes filled with panic. Claire, please. You should go, I said. His hand slid down the doorframe. Where am I supposed to go? I tilted my head. That sounds like a you problem. James's mouth tightened. I made a mistake. Yes, I said softly. And now you're paying for it. I shut the door. My phone buzzed. A text from Carter. Congratulations, Miss Blackwell. Looks like you won. I smiled. Yes, I had. No. I was going to make sure everyone knew it. It was done. James was out. The board had voted him out unanimously after the scandal. His shares were forcibly sold off to cover the financial damage. The company was mine now. Blackwell Industries belonged to me and only me. Jessica had vanished almost as quickly as she'd arrived. After the bank accounts were frozen and the credit cards were canceled, she tried to hold on to James, until he had nothing left to offer. Jessica wasn't the type to stay when the money dried up. She packed her designer bags, took the bracelet and walked out of his life without so much as a backward glance. James didn't try to stop her. I thought that would be the end of it. But James was nothing if not persistent. I was in the boardroom of Blackwell Industries when it happened. The room was sleek and modern, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. I sat at the head of the long glass table, Carter Sinclair seated to my right. Across from us, the other board members were finalizing the terms of the transition. We'll need your signature to complete the transfer of James's shares, Stephen said, sliding the folder toward me. I took the pen poised to sign, when the doors burst open. James. He looked wrecked. His once pristine suits were now wrinkled. His hair was disheveled. Dark circles framed his eyes. He looked smaller somehow. Claire, he said breathless. Please. Just give me 5 minutes. Stephen sighed. Mr. Blackwell, this is a closed meeting. It's fine, I said. My voice was calm. Controlled. He can have his 5 minutes. James walked toward me. His steps were slow, careful, like he was approaching dangerous ground. The other board members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Carter leaned back in his chair, watching James with mild amusement. James's eyes were wide, desperate. Claire, you can't do this. I set the pen down. Do what? Take the company, he said. Take everything. My gaze sharpened. Why not? You took everything from me. James shook his head. It wasn't like that. I stood slowly walking toward him. No. I said softly. Explain it to me then, James. How it wasn't like that. Explain how taking Jessica to the same hotel we spent our honeymoon wasn't like that. Explain how buying her the bracelet meant for me wasn't like that. James's jaw tightened. I was weak. You were careless, I corrected. And selfish. James's eyes darkened. Claire, please. I can't lose you. I can't. You already lost me, I said coldly. He stepped closer. We can start over. I smiled faintly. No, James. You can start over. I'm already gone. James's hand curled into a fist. Claire. I shook my head. Do you even understand how easy this was for me? James's mouth tightened. You thought I'd forgive you, I continued. You thought I'd let you walk away from this with your name intact. That's why you took Jessica to that dinner. You thought I'd cry. You thought I'd scream. You thought I'd beg. James's throat bobbed. You forgot who I am, I said. I built this company with you. I supported you while you chased your ambitions. I held us together when things got hard. And you threw it away for, what? A younger woman? A pretty face. James's gaze dropped. Claire. You don't get to ask for forgiveness now, I said softly. His hand lifted as though he wanted to touch me, but he dropped it. I love you, he whispered. My lips curled. You loved the idea of me. The convenience of me. The security I gave you. But real love. I smiled coldly. You don't even know what that is. James's chest rose and fell heavily. I reached into my purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I held it out. What's this? He asked. Final settlement, I said. It's over, James. James hesitated. Then reluctantly he took the paper. His hands shook as he unfolded it and scanned the contents. You're taking everything, he said, his voice cracking. Yes, I replied. I am. James's face twisted with pain. Claire, please. Just let me keep. No, I cut in. My gaze sharpened. You don't get to keep anything. You didn't just betray me, James. You humiliated me. You let her walk into that restaurant wearing the bracelet you bought for me. You wanted me to feel small. James's eyes squeezed shut. I'm not small, I said. And now neither is my revenge. James's shoulders sagged. He suddenly looked old. Defeated. Claire, he whispered. What am I supposed to do now? I smiled faintly. Figure it out. James hesitated. Then he stepped back. His hand dropped to his side. Goodbye, Claire. Goodbye, James. He walked toward the door. When he reached it, he turned back one last time, his eyes filled with quiet desperation. I didn't say anything. I watched him leave. The doors closed softly behind him. A long silence settled over the room. Carter chuckled. That was brutal. I turned toward him. Did you expect anything less? Carter smiled. Not at all. Stephen cleared his throat. Shall we continue? I sat back down. Yes. Let's finish this. I picked up the pen and signed the documents. A neat, clean signature. Stephen collected the folder. Congratulations, he said. You now own a majority stake in Blackwell Industries. I smiled. Perfect. The meeting adjourned. Carter lingered as the others filed out. You didn't hesitate, Carter said. Why would I? Carter's gaze darkened. Because you still loved him. I smiled faintly. Love isn't enough. Carter's lips curled. You're dangerous, Claire. I stood and picked up my purse. You keep saying that like it's a compliment. It is, Carter said. I walked toward the door. Dinner. Carter called after me. I glanced back. Maybe. Carter's smile widened. I'll be waiting. I left the building, stepping out into the crisp evening air. My car was waiting. The driver opened the door and I slid into the back seat. The city stretched out before me, glittering and alive. I had everything now. James was gone. Jessica was gone. The company was mine. My future was mine. My phone buzzed. A new text from Carter. Drinks this weekend? I smiled faintly. Maybe. As the car pulled into traffic, I closed my eyes and let out a deep breath. It was over. And for the first time in years, I was finally free. The end.